Everyone. Today we are going to talk about the digestive system and the different organs involved in digestion from start to finish. And let's talk about the finish uh, segment first. So, without further ado, I like to read this oldie but goldie book called Everyone Poops. An elephant makes a big poop. A mouse makes a tiny poop. A one hump camel makes a one hump poop, and a two hump camel makes a two hump poop. Only kidding. Fish poop, and so do birds, and bugs too. Different animals make different kinds of poop, different shapes, different colors, even different smells. Which end is the snake's behind that end? What does whale poop look like? Some stop to poop, others do it on the move. Some poop here and there, others do it in a special place. Grown-ups poop, children poop. While some children poop on the potty, others poop in their diapers. Some poop and pay no attention, others clean up after themselves. These poop by the water. This one does it in the water. He wipes himself with paper. All living things eat, so everyone poops. All right. So, in all seriousness, what did all of those living things have in common? They are animals. So, all animals poop. We are animals. So, we also poop. I pooped twice today. How many times did you poop? All right. So, I'm going to toggle between a simulation of about the digestive system, and we are going to go from start to finish, from food to poop. Okay, and we're going to toggle between to show what it looks like on the inside and what it looks like on the outside. So the first one is called the esophagus. And there's a little segment missing above this number one. It's called the mouth. Wait, can anybody hear that? If you can't hear that, turn your volume up. It's the sound of digestion. Ooh. All right, let me pause it for just a second. So, let's start with chewing. This is called mastication. You heard me right. Mastication. All right, so we're chewing, should take up to 1 minute. We have the enzyme called amylase in our saliva that breaks down starch and carbohydrates. Now, this is an important part right here. If not for this important step, we would choke every time we ate food. So we have our trachea is in the front of our body, anterior. Posterior, we have our esophagus. So every time we swallow, you have this little flap called an epiglottis, and it pushes food. It pushes food to the back pipe because you have two pipes going down from your mouth. You've got one called the trachea for respiration. It's going to go to your lungs. The second one, which we're focusing on today, is called the esophagus. So, all right. So let's look at this epiglottis. We've got this little flap, and what it did was it closed the trachea. The trachea is in the front. Food is going to go through the back. And what the food is going to do is it's going to roll off this epiglottis and go into the esophagus. All right, so we have food going down. Now it's going to go through the esophagus, and you may be able to see this like um, this contracting motion of the organs, and this is called peristalsis contraction. Excuse me, and this muscular contraction is what drives food from beginning to end. Okay, so let's go back here, and what we're focusing on right here is the esophagus, and we're going to enter. Let me see if I can zoom out here. We are going to enter the stomach. Okay, so we are in the back. I'm looking at the back of the person, and this is the stomach. Okay, so it kind of looks like this giant bean, so to speak. Okay, so we're going to go through the stomach. We're going to enter and look what's inside the stomach. All right, so going through the esophagus. This contraction movement is so strong that it even allows us to swallow and push food into our stomach while upside down. So you can actually stand upside down. Make sure you don't breathe because you might choke, but you can actually stand upside down and swallow food, and you will swallow food going head to toe, which will your feet will going upwards, but the food is actually going into the stomach. All right, so now we are in the stomach. Now, the stomach is going to start secreting some digestive enzymes to help break down protein. It's going to start forming this liquid called chyme, and this muscular contraction is what churn and breaks up the food, okay? What kind of acid's in your stomach? Does anybody know? Hydrochloric acid. Okay. Does anybody ever have like any heartburn through your throat sometimes when hydrochloric acid goes the wrong way? It goes, instead of going down, it goes up. Yeah, it burns. All right. So now it's going to leave the stomach. All right. We are going down. So we've got a hole going into the stomach. We've got a hole leaving the stomach. Let's see what that looks like over here. So here's the stomach. All right, so we just entered 2 to 4 hours of protein digestion. That's the main function, and breaking it down into smaller pieces, okay? So I'm going to try to rotate, and when the food leaves, it's going to leave out the bottom, okay? And we're going to start hitting this busy section right here on the small intestines, okay? So let's go back. All right, so now we are in the small intestines. And if you noticed, it's ribbed. Okay, so here we are. Now, right where the small intestines begins, do you see that right there? That enzyme shooting out into the small intestines. Well, let's talk about that. Where did that come from? All right, so we have a couple different organ systems here. Let me zoom out. Okay, so we have the stomach, 2 to 4 hours, protein digestion. It's going to go through the small intestines. Okay, let me go actually in the back. In the front, we have the liver, 2 lobes. Now, the liver does a lot of things, but in terms of digestion, one of its main functions is to create bile. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. I thought the gallbladder creates bile. No. The gallbladder is a bladder, so bladders store things. Just like your urine bladder, we have a gallbladder as well. All right, so let me see if I can get a better picture. Now, stomach goes into the small intestines, and see all this green tubing? Well, some of it's going to come from the liver, and a lot of it's going to come through from this green sac right behind the liver called the gallbladder. And all it is just a storage device, and it's going to inject bile into the small intestines to help break down, or we like to call emulsify, fat. Okay, similar to if you took Dawn detergent to help break and separate fat from like your Tupperware or your dishes. This little yellow thing in the back, does anybody know what that thing is called? All right, this is called the pancreas. Oops, I'm going to try to, all right, let me try to zoom out here. That is the pancreas. All right, so we have all this tubing, and it's all going to, and then the pancreas is going to inject some digestive enzymes as well. So here we go. That's a good vantage point. We've got the liver, stomach, small intestines, and we're going to inject more digestive enzymes, including bile. Okay, so the small intestines is going to help digest fat. So we need something to help break down fat at the very beginning. Okay, and that's from the bile. Now, let me see if I can zoom in here. All right. Now, we've got all this tubing. It's going to go through the pancreas, and then it's going to enter this opening right here. All right. Very, very important, because that's where we're going to inject some of that digestive enzymes. Okay. Do you see all this peristalsis movement? Okay. Crazy all the time, especially when there's food in there. All right. So that's where that comes from, right there. Okay. All right. So we're going to break down more food. Remember, this is the small intestines. It's going to help break down the fat. We are now in the small bowel, aka the small intestine, and we are about to start absorbing. All right, so we've got more digestive enzymes. We're going through a slippery slope. Now we have it's ribbed. It's ribbed because we want as much surface area as possible. More surface, more absorption, okay? All right. Now, the small intestines can be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, and you're going to finish absorbing and digesting, protein, carbs, and fats. So we are in the small bowel, 3 to 5 hours. All right. Almost to the very end here. Almost to the very end. We're going to go through. Oh, does anybody know how long this trek is? 10, 15? It can be anywhere up to 18 feet of length of small intestine. And just to see what that looks like, let me flip my picture around. All right. There we go. All of this in the bottom center is small intestines. And then the big is the large intestine. So let me flip it around in the back. All right, it's going to go through a windy road here. And then finally, it's going to meet the large intestine all the way at the bottom. So we're facing the same direction as this. So the bottom right part of your body. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's going to connect right at the bottom right, and it's going to hit the large intestines. And this is where that finicky little organ called, is that little tail coming off? Let me see if I can click on it. That little tiny tail sticking right there. Okay, remember that's where the small intestine meets the large intestine. Okay, that little tiny tail, it's called the appendix. Do you need it? Probably. But can you live without it? Sure. All right, so let's go keep going down our 18 feet of small intestines. And now we've just entered the large bowel. So we entered right there. And we're going to go, it's weird, isn't it? Look, we're going to go up. We're going to go up, over, down, back to the center, and then we're going to hit our rectum, so which is the very ending of the large bowel, out through the anus. So here we go. Such a magical journey, isn't it? All right, large bowel. Now, large bowel is going to be anywhere from 10 hours to a day. The main function of the large bowel, okay, so all of the nutrient absorption has already occurred in the small intestine. That's why it was so long, okay, and all that surface area. Large bowel is mainly for absorbing water from your food, okay? Additionally, this is where all of your good bacteria likes to live and likes to eat all of that undigestive fiber. So again, fiber is not going to be absorbed in the small intestine, but who's going to eat it? The bacteria in the large bowel. Okay, this is where we're going to start forming feces, and we are going to eventually make our way down to the, see, we're going all the way across, we're going down and up, and then finally we're going to get to the colon here, and we have our rectum, and then out she goes. And that's the story of poop. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did.